guys with a long story because honestly, this is the 5th time I've tried this, and if it doesn't work, I just quit. So here's the deal. I'm not going to be in the room 7th hour. That's what you are right here. You are 7th hour, my wonderful 7th hour. And you know what? Out of all the hours, I really don't want to miss 7th hour, but I'm going to. I have to go to a meeting, and the key word there is have to, or that's 2 key words. It's not just one. And here's the deal. I can't be there, but I'm gonna teach you via YouTube because it's the only option I got, and this is the 5th time that I've tried to do a video this morning, and if this doesn't work, I'm going to cry on TV. Well, computer, TV, whatever. So here we go. Here's what you're going to do. Get out your notes because we're going to talk about the Spanish-American War. I'm going to do a little review. Oh, why? Because that's just what I do. And then we're going to get into more notes, more stuff you have to know. And then after that, we are going to get into some – it's not a project, but it's a thing that you're going to be working in groups towards the end of the hour, and then we'll talk about what happens tomorrow. So here we go. Now that your notes are out, here's what I need from you. I need you guys to answer a couple questions. And yes, you're going to answer them to the TV. That's me. And we're going to do our best, okay? Because I know you guys are going to pay attention. Now, here's the deal. Ross, you need to keep them in line, that back row. You're the back row person. Actually, not even the back row. You're like the 3rd row. But you're going to control the back row, Ross. That's who you're controlling. My 3rd row, there's only one person I trust out of the entire 3rd row to keep everybody in check, and it's Bailey. Bailey, you make sure everybody in that 3rd row is on top of the ball. Anyone who gets out of line, Bailey, you're yelling people at the 3rd row, quiet down, listen up, learn something, okay? My 2nd row, this is like, when I say 2nd row, like second from the Cass, it's got to be you. You got to take over, Cass. If Naul gets out of line, you tell him to get back into it, all right? Cass, you have to bring the pain, all right? All right, so your 1st row, there's only one person, that entire 1st row. There is only one person that I can absolutely trust without a shadow of a doubt. Raphael. Raphael, you make sure that entire row stays on point. So here we go. Let's do this. So I want somebody to raise their hand to answer this question. I talked about patriotism, I talked about nationalism, I talked about what the difference is between the two. They are similar, they are love for one's country, but it's the way they express their love is a little different. So you tell me, of the two, patriotism or nationalism, which one wants to acknowledge the good in the bad of one's country in order to change the country's behavior from those bad decisions in the past so we never do them again? Which one acknowledges the good in the bad? Patriotism or nationalism? Raise your hand. Okay, we got some hands up. Good stuff. All right. So I'll just call on one of you. Everyone has their hand up. Joey, patriotism or nationalism? Which one is about looking in the past, acknowledging the good in the bad so we can change our behavior? Go ahead. Patriotism. Good stuff. Good stuff. Nationalism is a little bit different. It's we're the best because we're just the best, and we're always going to be the best because we're the best. It's a circular argument that doesn't look at any evidence really provided. It's just we're the best, and therefore it doesn't allow for change, which is a good thing for society. All right, so we got that out of the way. We got nationalism. We talked about pride and the idea of what pride is. Let's talk about those. Again, this is just review because the stuff we talked about yesterday. We're going to do real quick. So we had those empires that fell. We had Rome that fell, right? Inflation and taxes and barbarians and all these other things. And we talked about the British Empire. They fell too. They fell because of wars, conflicts, colonial powers wanting, or the colonies that they had fighting for freedom. We talked about Spain, but before that, we talked about the communist regimes, and now it's down to 5 countries, and they're not really looking too well, most of them. And then we talked about Spain, and this is really going to bring us into the Spanish-American War because they used to own quite a bit of stuff. And then what happened is they lost. They lost a lot of it, and they wanted to hold on as much as they could. And then you have America stepping in, seeing that the Cubans are trying to fight for their own country, trying to become their own country against Spain. And we're like, you know what? We'll help you out this time. We did help them out before, but we're going to help you out now. And that's kind of one of the reasons why they go into this conflict is that. Now, the Spanish-American War was a war. It was called the Splendid War by politicians back in the day. Why it was called the Splendid War or Splendid Little War is it lasted 3 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. That's short. It's not that long. As far as death tolls, there's about 300 Americans that died by bullets and about 2,000 that died by disease. So disease was a huge killer. It was like 15,000 that died by disease by the Spanish, and they lost about 800 to bullets. So obviously, what we won by statistics there, and we won just generally speaking. We won in the peace conference. We got a bunch of stuff out of this. So okay, here we go. The war starts, and how does it start? There's like 6 steps that I talked about. The first one I talked about was somebody raised their hand. What was that letter called? The letter that led to the beginning of the war here. What was it? All right, I got some hands up. Good stuff. Good stuff. I think for sure there's only one person that's going to know this. Kim. What was the letter called that caused the Spanish? One of the causes of the Spanish. Go ahead, say it. Say it one more time in here. All right, the DeLome letter. Yes, the DeLome letter was this. This was that smack-talking Spanish ambassador that basically is making fun of our president. And we're like, yeah, you don't do that. He's our president. We can make fun of him. You just relax. And then you have the next thing that happened. What was the ship? The ship that sunk that caused more people to go, we should fight Spain. Hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up. Gavin. Okay, Gavin, what do you got? Yeah, so yeah, it's the USS Maine. It's that's what did it. I'm assuming that's what you said. The USS Maine. So please, make sure you know that the USS Maine saying, no, we don't know what caused it, but we do know that it was caused, and we blame Spain for it. We also had economic reasons for doing this. The Philippines would allow us trade with what continent? Just everybody, we're going to go 3, 2, 1. You're going to say out loud, what continent did the Philippines allow us easy access to trade with? What continent? All right, 3, 2, 1. Asia. Good job, everybody. Asia is it. Because it gave us an opportunity to actually stock, lock, and load ships, give them resources to go from one point to the other point. Then we have McKinley's war message. There was basically 4 things that McKinley said in his war message. We should do it for humanity of the Cubans. We should do it for the Americans that are still in there. We should do it for money reasons. We get financially, economically boosted by this. And 4, we should do it for peace, which is just the weirdest thing. Fighting for peace is just it's antithetical. So it's just the opposite. But it is what it is. But that's not it. We had media that played a part in this. We had Edison that had a lot of stuff that showed off like the cool like fighter people that are about to fight and made people want to fight more. We had Pride. That was the 6th one. Pride was a big one because Pride basically pushed Spain to do this because they didn't want to lose any more territory. And it pushed Americans to do it too because we wanted to show off how tough the next generation was. It's been 40 years since the Civil War. And those people that fought the Civil War are dead or dying, and this new generation wants to show off what they're able to do. Again, this is still just review. What was the group of people that rode horses? What were they called? Everybody? Rode horses? Well, they were trained on horses for 5 weeks, but they didn't ride the horses for reasons. Who was it? Rough Riders, yes. And what happened to those horses? Yeah, they drowned. I shouldn't laugh at that. It's terrible. Be serious. They drowned. Moving on. Buffalo Soldiers, they were named after what wars they fought. What wars were they fighting in? The Indian Wars. And they were named Buffalo Soldiers basically because the Native Americans found so much respect in their ability to fight and their bravery. They named them after an animal that they saw as the pinnacle of the most important animals in their tradition. And we'll talk about Buffalo Soldiers in just a minute when we talk about battles. So there's 4 battles you need to know. There's the one of Manila Bay. You can see this stuff, by the way, in the PowerPoint that I sent you. But Manila Bay, I'm not going to spell these out loud, so do your best. That wasn't really a battle. It was we had 7 steel ships, and they had 8 wooden ships. Yeah. Wooden ships aren't going to really last against a steel ship. I'm sorry, it's not going to work. So it was we just blew them out of the water, literally. And Los Gasmos is the next battle. This is where the Buffalo Soldiers saw these propped up bodies in this open field. The Spanish put them there, and when they went to investigate, snipers from the Spanish started picking off the Buffalo Soldiers. And you would think the Buffalo Soldiers would retreat because they're in an open field, but they didn't. They chased the men that were sniping at them from a covered distance. The Buffalo Soldiers chased them off because they're beasts. I mean, Buffalo Soldiers are pretty awesome. There's a Battle of San Juan Heights. So we talked about the idea of having the high ground in battle is what's most important. I have the high ground, Anakin. Don't underestimate my power. And then he gets like his limbs chopped off. Having the high ground is important in battle, and the Spanish had the high ground. This is the bloodiest battle, by the way, of the entire war, which isn't saying much because we didn't have a lot of people die here. But the Buffalo Soldiers actually got up the hill first, but Teddy Roosevelt comes up there with his Rough Riders second. He takes a picture like, hey, and this picture gets printed everywhere, and it like he gets the credit for taking San Juan Heights, but it wasn't him. And then the Battle of Santiago Bay was not much of a battle. One American died, 300 plus Spanish died. We captured like 500 of them. It was just another showing that we basically were beasts. Disease was the number one killer, by the way. We talked about this with casualties. We only lost 300 or so to bullets, and we lost like 2,000 to disease. One of the diseases out there was yellow fever, and that was literally would change your skin yellow, and you would have aches, you had fevers, you had chills, you'd vomit. Sometimes you'd bleed from your orifices, which you guys can figure out what that is later. That was the number one killer. It wasn't bullets, it was disease. Then we have the legacy. So there's a legacy that comes out of this. The big thing is, I'd write this down big and bold. We get Hawaii. Now, we annex Hawaii, but what that basically means is it leads to the idea that we are going to, get Hawaii as a state. So what war gives us Hawaii? Spanish-American War. But there's also the Philippines that we establish control over. We actually have a Filipino War, which we'll talk about later in class, and it's brutal. The Filipino War is not something that's pleasant to talk about. Matter of fact, most teachers don't talk about it because it's that unpleasant. And we'll talk about what happens to Cuba too. Cuba basically is left out of the peace accords, and then we basically keep control of Cuba for a while. But we even today still have a base there called Guantanamo Bay, which has been in the news for the last couple decades. Puerto Rico also gets in control of the United States for a while. And Puerto Rico, actually, you can still see today, they're kind of like within our umbrella, which is nice. There's this idea, too, that McKinley has a response to why he's not allowing these countries to actually be their own countries. So let me read you from McKinley. There's somebody drilling next door. I can't catch a break. I'm not joking. It's like 2 hours of doing these videos, and it's just, okay, here we go. So here's McKinley's response to why we did not allow these countries to actually become their own countries. One was they could not give them back Spain because that would be cowardly and dishonorable. Two, that we could not turn them over to France or Germany because France and Germany were our economic rivals, so we did it for money reasons. Three, that we could not leave them to themselves because they were unfit for self-government. They were unfit for. They're totally fit to fight a war, but they can't do self-government, and they would soon have anarchy and misrule worse than Spain was. Basically, he was calling them children. Yeah, that's polite. They also said that this is the one that probably is the most stinky of the stinkies. That there was nothing left for us to do but to take them all and to educate the Filipinos and uplift and civilize and Christianize them. I sent for the chief engineer of the War Department, our map maker, and told him to put the Philippines on the map of the United States. So basically what he's saying here is that in order to be civilized, you have to follow a specific faith, which is actually contradictory to the Founding Fathers. There was no one particular faith, but he's saying that that's one of the reasons why they can't be a country. That's McKinley, the vampire president. Like legitimately, if you look at a picture of him, he looks like a vampire. So yeah, that's his reasons for not letting these countries be countries of their own and why we kept control of them for decades afterwards. So now let's talk about this idea of patriotism and nationalism again. As a class, you guys are sitting there. I just taught you a bunch of stuff. You wrote a bunch of stuff down. If not, you can find this on my YouTube channel if it posts. We'll see. But as a class, I want to have a little quick discussion. Which one should we promote? So that's really the first question is, which one should we promote? Nationalism or patriotism? So I want to do a quick poll. Raise your hand if you think we should promote patriotism. Okay, I'll wait. So keep hands up. All right, somebody do a count. I'm gonna have, who can I trust to do a count? You know what? I'm gonna have Kiara. Kiara, I want you to, if you can just count all the hands up, that'd be awesome. How many people are voting for patriotism to promote? All right, good. Hands down. Kiara, I'm assuming you were able to count that fast. And then we're gonna have raise your hand for nationalism. Kiara, if you can do a count, that'd be awesome. Okay, who won? Was it patriotism or nationalism? Okay. I hope it was one over the other, because which one promotes growth? Everybody, just at the count of three, you're gonna shout out the one that promotes growth. 3, 2, 1. Yes, that one promotes growth, because the only one that promotes growth is one that recognizes both faults and achievements, and then notices that in the faults, things have to change in order to make those achievements. So yeah, that's key. Now, what we're going to do as a class is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to break you guys up into groups, and you guys are going to discuss some of the things about our country as patriots. Because as patriots, you should love one's country. You should root for one's country. Why? Because you're living there. It just makes the most sense. And you should have some pride in your country. And you should be able to recognize certain things in your country that need to be improved. If you can't recognize that, those improvements will never take place, and your country will become less than over time. So as patriots, we are going to sit here and we're going to look at certain things that we rank compared to other countries, and you guys are going to come up with plans of action, basically steps to improve each one of these. I'm not going to say failings, because we still do well in a lot of things, but to improve where we're at, because that's really the big thing, is improving where we're at. So I'm going to break you guys up into groups. The first group, I'm going to have Evelise, Kiara, Francisco, and Noe. You guys are in group number 1, and what you're going to look into is education. So we rank in science 23rd, in math we rank 41st, and in reading we rank 22nd compared to other countries. So we're not number 1 in any of these areas of education. We're not doing bad. I mean, there's hundreds of countries, but we're not doing bad. But we want to improve, because that's what a patriot wants to do, is you want your country to improve. So you guys are going to come up with actual steps our country could take to improve our ability in math, science, reading, and education in general. I don't want you just to throw this away and go, school should be more difficult. I want specifics, because what's going to happen is at the end of the hour, you're going to stand up and say what your topic was. Your topic was education. You're going to talk about where we rank, which is 23rd in science, 41st in math, and 22nd in reading, and you're going to talk about specifically how we can improve those scores. So that's your group. Next group, I'm going to have Aiden, Law, Orion, Bailey, and Joey. You're taking on a little bit something different. You're taking on life expectancy. That's how long people live in our country. We rank 26th, which means people die. Now, again, we're better than most countries, but there's room for improvement. So what can we do in our country to improve our life expectancy? I'm expecting specific details of what we can do in society, what laws that can get passed, what we can do for our school systems, what can we do for just general life to make it so our life expectancy goes up. Identify what's causing the life expectancy to be low. Along with that, by the way, you can look at infant mortality. Our infant mortality rate is pretty high. What that means is there is a lot of kiddos that die at young ages, specifically pre-birth or post-birth. So I want you to look at why infant mortality rate is the way it is in our country, along with life expectancy. It's a good category to talk about. So there's another one. We're going to have Ross, Aiden M., Parker, and Kim. I'm going to have you jump over there and sit next to Parker for this next one. What you're going to do here is you're going to look at our country rank for paid leave. So what paid leave is, it has to do with maternity and paternity. So maternity is mothers getting paid leave, and paternity is fathers getting paid leave when they have a kid. We have zero. We have zero federal. We have zero. For our federal government has given us zero paid leave for paternity and maternity. No federal government mandate. Understand this. Other countries give several weeks. The highest one is Estonia, who gives 86 weeks of paid leave. That's over a year to spend with your kid after they're born. We give 0 for the federal government. So I want you to see what we could do to improve that, what steps need to take place, what would be the cost of this. I want you to come up with a system, or you can argue that we don't deserve to have time with our newborn child. We should get back to work. You could have that too. I'm curious to hear that argument. But you can have that argument by all means. So that's your guys' group. We're going to have Atticus, Grace, Chalo, Alfred, and Gavin. There probably isn't going to be all 5 of you here, but there will be enough of you to take on this one. And I want you to take on, let's see here. You guys are going to look at the prison population. So one of the things that we are number 1 in is the number of prisoners per capita. We have more than any other country per capita. That's just astounding how many prisoners we have. So we also have a bad recidivism rate. So what that means is many of the prisoners who leave prison, they go right back into prison. I need you to solve that problem. I know it's a real easy problem to solve, but you're going to do it. You're going to explain how we can improve our prison system so we're not number 1 in the world for incarcerating people and also have a horrible recidivism rate, which is basically prisoners returning to prison. Explain how we can change our prison system to make it better for the people. Cass, Wyatt, Nawu, and Braylon, you're taking on healthcare costs. So our country is number 1 in healthcare cost, which is very strange because we pay the most in our healthcare, yet one of the groups back there, Joey's group back there, they're going to talk about life expectancy. It's amazing how our healthcare costs are so high, but we're also dying earlier than other countries. So you're going to explain how we can solve our healthcare costs, how much we spend on healthcare, and what we can do to decrease it. Then Raphael, Jackson, and Brevin, you're the last group. You're going to talk about how much we spend. Let's go with tuition fees. So we have the highest tuition fees. That's money for college in the entire world. And that means we have an extreme amount of debt. You guys are going to look at how much student loan debt is out there, because that right there is a bubble that's eventually going to pop. And you're going to explain how we can decrease the risks and the negatives of having that much student debt in our country and having that much cost for tuition. So figure out a way to do it. I know, these are so easy. And all of you, I want you to think about these next 2 topics, whether you're in the groups I just talked about or not, and you're going to talk about the idea that we in our country spend more money in our military than like the next 6 or 7 or 8 countries combined. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And what is good and bad? Because there are goods to this and there are bads to this. I want you to talk about the goods and bads of doing that. And we also have we are the top country with individuals, civilians owning firearms. Talk about the goods and bads of that, because there are goods and bads to that. So talk about that as a giant class. What's going to happen is the sub's going to give you about 10 minutes, maybe less than that, and you're going to discuss about your individual stuff, the problem-solving aspects of how to solve each one of these problems, and then you're going to present to those to the rest of the class. So the big idea here is to become better in life, you have to be honest about what you do well and what you can improve on. Ignoring faults, making excuses, and creating fake realities does not promote growth, and that's not what we're doing in this class. We're patriots, we're acknowledging the goods and the bads, and we're going to make those changes accordingly. For your guys' class also, you're not taking the quiz today. You're going to take the quiz first thing tomorrow. How this is going to work is tomorrow you'll come in, I'll have the quiz ready for you, and you'll take it then. Why you're not taking it today? Because I'm not in the room with you guys today, so that's what's going to happen. So make sure you write down in each individual group on a piece of paper your guys' names, the problem you're trying to solve, and the steps to solve that problem. You're going to turn that in after you present it to the class at the end of the hour. Peace out.